equals 4, A is for apple, and C is for cat, just like you. Oh, hello, welcome boys and girls to another of Cosette's Enchanted Journeys. As you might be able to see here, Cosette and I were just playing pretend. Do you like to play pretend? We sure do. And today I was pretending to be a teacher and Cosette was pretending to be my student. And we were just doing some lessons together here in the lamp. Cosette has a story picked out for us today all about a very special teacher. Would you like to go and read it with us now? All right, you know what to do. Cosette is going to send us with her magic on our magic flying carpet to a special place to read together. You ready to go? Let's rub our hands together and say, I wish to go on an enchanted journey, and away we'll go. And hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another Enchanted Journeys story time. Today I have a special treat for you because I have two stories. They go hand in hand. They're called Miss Nelson is Missing and Miss Nelson Has a Field Day. And both of these books are by Allard and James Marshall. If you've been watching some of my programs, you might know I'm a big fan of James Marshall. He wrote the George and Martha books that I loved when I was very young, and I still love today. So without further ado, I think we're gonna go ahead and kick off our stories. You ready? Let's start with Miss Nelson is Missing. The kids in room 207 were misbehaving again. Spitballs stuck to the ceiling. Paper planes whizzed through the air. They were the worst behaved class in the whole school. Now settle down, said Miss Nelson in a sweet voice. But the class would not settle down. They whispered and giggled. They squirmed and made faces. They were even rude during story hour. They always refused to do their lessons. Something will have to be done, said Miss Nelson. The next morning, Miss Nelson did not come to school. Wow, yelled the kids. Now we can really act up. They began to make more spitballs and paper planes. Today, let's just be terrible, they said. Not so fast, hissed an unpleasant voice. A woman in an ugly black dress stood before them. I am your new teacher, Miss Viola Swamp. And she rapped the desk with her ruler. Where is Miss Nelson? Asked the kids. Never mind that, snapped Miss Swamp. Open those arithmetic books. Miss Nelson's kids did as they were told. They could see that Miss Swamp was a real witch. She meant business. Right away, she put them to work, and she loaded them down with homework. We'll have no story hour today, said Miss Swamp. Keep your mouths shut, said Miss Swamp. Sit perfectly still, said Miss Swamp. And if you misbehave, you'll be sorry, said Miss Swamp. The kids in room 207 had never worked so hard. Days went by and there was no sign of Miss Nelson. The kids missed Miss Nelson. Maybe we should try to find her, they said. Some of them went to the police. Detective McSmog was assigned to the case. He listened to their story. He scratched his chin. I think Miss Nelson is missing. Detective McSmog would not be much help. Other kids went to Miss Nelson's house. The shades were tightly drawn and no one answered the door. In fact, the only person they did see was the wicked Miss Viola Swamp coming up the street. If she sees us, she'll give us more homework. They got away just in time. Maybe something terrible happened to Miss Nelson. Maybe she was gobbled up by a shark, said one of the kids. But that didn't seem likely. Maybe Miss Nelson went to Mars, said another kid. But that didn't seem likely either. I know, exclaimed one know-it-all. Maybe Miss Nelson's car was carried off by a swarm of angry butterflies. But that was the least likely of all. The kids in room 207 became very discouraged. It seemed that Miss Nelson was never coming back, and they would be stuck with Miss Viola Swamp forever. They heard footsteps in the hall. Here comes the witch, they whispered. Hello, children, said someone in a sweet voice. It was Miss Nelson. Did you miss me? She asked. We certainly did, cried all the kids. Where were you? That's my little secret, said Miss Nelson. How about a story hour? Oh, yes, cried the kids. Miss Nelson noticed that during story hour, no one was rude or silly. What brought about this lovely change? She asked. That's our little secret, said the kids. Back home, Miss Nelson took off her coat and hung it in the closet, right next to an ugly black dress. When it was time for bed, she sang a little song. I'll never tell, she said to herself with a smile. P.S. Detective McSmog is working on a new case. He is now looking for Miss Viola Swamp. The end. What'd you think of Miss Nelson is Missing? You ready for Miss Nelson Has a Field Day? Let's find out what she's up to in this one, shall we? For some weeks now, gloom had blanketed the Horace B. Smedley School. No one laughed or threw spitballs. No one even smiled. Miss Nelson was worried. Everyone was down in the dumps. Even the cafeteria ladies had lost their sparkle. Mr. Blandsworth was so depressed he hid under his desk. It's the worst team in the whole state, he said. And it was true. The Smedley Tornadoes were just pitiful. They hadn't won a game all year. They haven't scored even a single point. And lately, they only seemed interested in horsing around and giving Coach the business. Why practice, they said. We'll only lose anyway. We're in for it now, said old Pop Hansen, the janitor. The big Thanksgiving game is coming up, and the werewolves from Central are real animals. They'll make mincemeat out of our team. What's to be done, said Miss Nelson. We need a real expert, said Pop. That afternoon, while Miss Nelson was grading papers, she heard wild laughter. It was coming from the teacher's lounge. Coach Armstrong had cracked up. I'll make us a fresh pot of coffee, said Miss Nelson. When Coach had calmed down, Miss Nelson took him home in a taxi. You need a nice long rest, she said. The next day, it was announced over the PA that Coach Armstrong would be out for a long time with the measles. Who will take his place? Said the kids. When Miss Nelson passed by Lulu's after school, a serious discussion was going on. We need someone who can really get the team into shape for the big Thanksgiving game, said one kid. Someone who knows how to get results. It's too bad Miss Viola Swamp isn't around, said another. Who? Said a kid who was new in town. You never heard of Viola Swamp? Said the first kid. The meanest substitute in the whole wide world? She's a real witch. She had no trouble getting results. Mr. Blandsworth happened to overhear. He said. Said Miss Nelson, and she wasted no time getting home. After rummaging around in her closet, she found what she was looking for, an ugly black sweatsuit. Then she made an important phone call. I'll be right there, said the voice at the other end. The next day, Mr. Blandsworth announced that there would be football practice as usual. Whoever it is, said the guys, let's really give him the business. The doors to Coach's office flew open, and out stepped a lady in an ugly black dress. My name is Viola Swamp, said the lady. I'm here to get results. It's Blandsworth, cried the guys, and they laughed him off the field. Oh, rats, said Blandsworth. How could they tell? Just then, the guys heard the sound of squeaky tennis shoes. I am Coach Swamp, said the lady in the black sweatsuit. Holy smoke, cried the team. The Swamp! The team's fullback tried to pussyfoot away. Not so fast, Mr. Smarty, said Coach Swamp. Wow, said one of the guys. Did you see that tackle? Coach Swamp was a real expert. She put the team to work right away. The guys had never done so many leg raises. More, said Coach Swamp. They had never run so fast. Faster, yelled Coach Swamp. This is murder, said the guys. Pipe down, said Coach Swamp. In only a matter of days, the Smedley Tornadoes were looking better. Coach Swamp really gave them the business. Mr. Blandsworth was a little puzzled, however. Who is that Miss Swamp? He said. Maybe Miss Nelson knows. I'll go ask. Miss Nelson was busy grading papers when Blandsworth looked in. I don't want to disturb her, said Blandsworth. She probably doesn't know anyway. Down on the field, Coach Swamp was having a little talk with the team. And don't ever think you can horse around again, she said, because the Swamp will be watching. When Coach Armstrong returned after his rest, he was very surprised by what he found. The guys played like a real team. "How did this happen?" said Coach Armstrong. Said the guys. On Thanksgiving Day, the tornadoes clobbered the werewolves 77-3. It was a great day for the Horace B. Smedley School. Mr. Blandsworth treated the whole team to hot dogs at Lulu's. Miss Nelson went home tired and happy. "Sometimes you just have to get tough," she told her sister Barbara. "And by the way, thanks for filling in for me." "Anytime," said Barbara. "Anytime." The end. And what did you think of Miss Nelson Has a Field Day? Did they trick you in this story when they surprised us at the end with Miss Nelson having a twin sister? Because we read Miss Nelson is Missing first, and she dressed up as Viola Swamp, I thought that Miss Nelson was playing the part of Viola Swamp. And I was so confused when she was in her office grading papers in the classroom, and there was still a Viola Swamp. I think that was a really fun twist on the story. How about you? Speaking of tricks, I thought it would be a lot of fun for our activity today if we performed a trick of our own. Would you like to go with me now and make a magical tube that you can show your friends and your family and perform a little magic by pulling things out of the magic tube? All right, you ready to go and do it with me now? Let's go.
You only need a few simple things today. A pair of scissors, some tape, a little bit of glue, and 2 pieces of construction paper that are the same color. That part's important, they should match. And then you're gonna need some magic items to hide inside your magic vanishing tube that we're gonna create. So what I have here are a couple of scarves that I'm gonna tie together so it'll look like we're pulling magic scarves out of our magic cone. How cool is that? All right, so if you have some materials lying around, and if you don't have a scarf or something like this, you can use some tissues, you could put other objects in there, you can pull anything out of your magic cone that you want it to, as long as it fits. And you'll see how much room you have once we finish our activity. Now the real trick with our magic trick is not to tell people your secret of how you did it. It's going to be optical illusion that is going to wow them with your magic. The magic that we're using in this activity is called forced perspective, and it's something very simple and easy to do, so I hope you're able to follow along with me. The first step we're going to do is we're going to take just 1 sheet of our construction paper and we're just going to roll it into a cylinder. It's a pretty good size. And then you're just going to secure that with tape, and you want to make sure it's nice and straight before you tape your cylinder. That's the one part you want to make sure you get right. Line up the paper, make it nice and straight, and then just put a little bit of tape down on the side. And you can fix up your cylinder before you tape it down. Make sure it's nice and straight. So you'll have a cylinder that looks something like that on the inside, so you just tape along the edge. I want to crush our cylinder. There, you should have a cylinder tube. That's step 1. Step 2, we're going to take our other piece of matching construction paper and we're going to roll it into a cone shape instead of a cylinder. And you're going to want it to be roughly the same size as your other shape. So it'll kind of look like a cone, an ice cream cone or a paper cone. And it's okay that it's going to have overlapping, that's fine. We're going to fix that in a minute. So just kind of practice with that fold until you get it right. The trickiest part with the cone step is getting it to be about the same size as your first piece, because you want it to sit right inside the first piece. So just make sure when you roll your cone shape, it will slide in to your bigger cylinder shape. You might have to unroll and re-roll a couple of times and then tape it generously. Once you've got it to a good shape and you can slide it through your other one, you're going to trim off where it's uneven. And same with the bottom, just give it a trim. And then the next step is you're going to use just a little bit of your glue and put a little bit of glue on the inside of your other tube. And you're going to slide your tube in and line it up with the other one. And then just push down. You should have something that looks a little like that. It should look like one solid piece. And here's the trick part, boys and girls. You should have space right here. That's where the trick is going to take place. Ready to show and wow audiences, your friends, your family, your parents with your magic cone, your magic tube. This is what we do next. We show the audience. See the magic tube. There is nothing in the magic tube. See, here's my hand. I'm sticking it in the magic tube. I got nothing in there, right? And then I'm going to turn over my magic tube and say magical words. Alakazam, abracadabra. Am I magical? Why, yes. Yes, I am. And out. You pull your tissue, your paper towel, anything that you've hidden in your secret compartment, a handkerchief maybe, if you made your tube a little bit tighter on the end. The trick is this magic space that you've created within your magic tube through using a cone on the inside and keeping it a little tighter. And you have that forced perspective when the eye looks. Nobody can tell that that end down there is smaller than this end here. And it gives you this secret space to hide things and to pull them out like magic. I hope you enjoyed doing this magic trick with me. What do you say? You ready to head back to the magic lamp, speaking of magic, and say goodbye to Cosette? Me too. Let's go.
And welcome back to the magic lamp, my friends. Did you enjoy the stories about Miss Nelson? I sure did. She sounds like she was a pretty special teacher. She used her creativity and her wits and imagination, and she took some initiative, didn't she? And she helped get those students back into shape, and then she helped coach a football team with the special help of her twin sister. Did you see that coming? I know I didn't. But that sort of trick I thought was a lot of fun to try and make our own trick. Were you able to make the magic tube today? As you can see, there's nothing in that magic tube. Abracadabra, alakazam, I reach my hand in and poof, out pops this tissue. Isn't that fun? I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll give this a try again and you'll surprise your friends and your family with a little bit of magic trickery that you've got up your sleeve. And I also hope you'll come back and visit Cosette and I in our magic lamp again very soon. Until we see you, take great care of yourselves. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.